I never thought I would wear a black dress so soon. Not for a party. Not for work. But for my husband's funeral. That morning, I stood in front of the mirror, staring at myself. My hair looked the same, tied loosely like always. But my face looked tired, worn, older than my 21 years. That was the day my life changed forever. The day I became a widow. I met Aaron when I was 18. We were both studying in the same town, both just beginning to figure out who we were. I saw him one afternoon outside the library. He was helping an elderly woman carry her shopping bags across the street. It was a small act, but it caught my eye. Something about the way he moved, the quiet kindness in his hands, the calm smile he offered without needing thanks. That's what first drew me to him. A few days later, I saw him again at the bus stop. I remembered his face, and to my surprise, he smiled at me and said, "Hello." That was how it began. We started talking after that. Slowly at first, just a few minutes after class, casual hellos. But then, he began waiting for me outside the building. We'd walk together to the lake nearby and sit for hours, talking about everything and nothing. Aaron never tried to impress me. He didn't boast or talk about future riches or wild dreams. Instead, he asked me how I felt. What made me smile? What I wanted to do tomorrow. That made me feel seen. A year later, we moved in together. It was a small apartment, nothing fancy, but it was ours. We shared everything, groceries, bills, quiet mornings with tea. He liked cooking. I liked cleaning. And that was enough. We were happy. No big problems, no loud arguments. No dramatic dreams either. We just wanted a quiet life. Maybe get married one day. Maybe have kids. But then, something changed. It was a Sunday. We had gone out to buy vegetables. On the way home, Aaron suddenly stopped. He said he felt dizzy. I told him to sit down for a minute. He did, smiled, and said it was nothing. But his face had turned pale. I thought maybe he was just tired or hungry. We went home. He rested. But the next day, he felt worse. We went to the clinic. The doctor ordered some tests, blood work, scans. At first, we didn't worry. We thought it was probably a mild infection. Something that could be fixed with medicine and rest. A week later, we got the results. Cancer. A rare kind. The kind that spreads fast. I remember the cold in the doctor's room, the way my hands froze in my lap. I didn't cry, not immediately. I couldn't. Aaron squeezed my hand and looked at me in a way that already felt like a goodbye. But I shook my head. I told him we would fight. That people beat cancer. That we had time. He smiled and said, "Okay." But in his eyes, I saw the truth. He knew. The next few months were a blur. Hospital visits. Medicines. Tests. He lost weight. He lost his hair. But not his smile. He tried to stay strong for me. And I tried to stay strong for him. Some nights, when he was asleep, I would lock myself in the bathroom, cover my mouth with a towel, and cry until my body shook. He never asked me to marry him during that time. But I knew he wanted to. I think he was afraid of tying me to a future that might not exist. Then one evening, during dinner, he placed a small ring on the table. No grand speech. No flowers. Just a quiet offering of love. "I want you to have it," he said. "Even if we can't have the whole thing." I said yes. We didn't plan a wedding. We just signed the papers in a small office with 2 neighbors as witnesses. But I wore that ring with pride. Not for the ceremony. Not for a party. But for us. For the love we had. For the time we had left, that was our last good day. After that, his body weakened quickly. He could barely walk. I helped him to the bathroom. I fed him when his hands trembled too much. I washed him, changed the sheets, folded his clothes with trembling fingers. I did it all with love. And fear. So much fear. The kind that wraps around your bones and doesn't let go. He passed away on a Monday morning. I had gotten up early to make tea. When I returned, he looked like he was still asleep. Peaceful. Still. I called his name. He didn't answer. I touched his face. It was cold. I screamed. I screamed so loud the neighbor came running. After that, everything blurred. Ambulance. Hospital. Forms. Phone calls. And then the funeral. That was when I wore the black dress. The one I had once bought for a party but never wore. I stood among the flowers. I listened to people whisper words like too young and too soon. But I couldn't cry. Not then. I felt like I was floating, outside my own body, watching a stranger's life unfold. After the funeral, everyone left. But I came home. To our home. To his pillow, still shaped by his head. To his scent, still lingering in the sheets. I laid next to it and stayed there all night. The days after were unbearable. The silence in the flat was too loud. I still heard his voice sometimes, in the hallway, the kitchen. I would turn, expecting to see him. But there was nothing. Just stillness. People told me to move on. To start fresh. But I didn't want to. Not yet. I was only 21. I wasn't ready to be anything but his wife, even if only in memory. I went through the motions. Brushed my teeth. Made breakfast. Sat at the table, staring at nothing. Some days I opened his drawer just to touch his things, his watch, his t-shirt, an old photo of us at the park. I didn't know what to do with them. So I kept them close, like pieces of him I could still hold. 3 months passed. I still wore the ring. I didn't care what people said. I had been his wife. That truth mattered more to me than time. Then one morning, I ran out of tea. It sounds small. But it shook me. Tea had become the only habit I kept. The only part of our morning routine that survived. I couldn't let it break. So I got dressed. Real shoes. A coat. The sun was sharp. The wind, cold. I walked fast to the store. I didn't want anyone to talk to me. I didn't want to pretend to smile. On the way back, I passed the park. The same one where we sat on Sundays. The same bench where we shared sandwiches. I stopped. Looked at it. For a moment, I saw him sitting there, laughing. Young. Alive. But when I blinked, it was gone. That night, I sat by the window. I didn't speak. I just watched. Life was moving on outside, people walking dogs, children riding bikes. But I wasn't. A week later, my aunt called. She had been the only one still trying to reach me. She said, "Come stay a few days." I said no. But that night, the silence in the flat was louder than usual. I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to explain. But I needed something, some other heartbeat beside mine. The next morning, I packed a small bag. I didn't take the ring off. I didn't touch his things. I just locked the door behind me. She lived an hour away. When I arrived, she hugged me. No questions. Just tea. Just silence. The safe kind. That evening, she showed me her garden. Small, simple. Green. Touch the soil, she said. So I did. It was soft. The air was fresh. And for the first time in months, I felt something other than grief. Something small. But alive. I stayed for 5 days. I watered the plants. Walked to the shop. Cooked a simple meal. and for one moment, I felt like myself again. When I returned to the flat, it still felt empty. But not as dark. That evening, I opened the curtains. Sat by the window. Held my cup of tea and whispered, "I'm trying." I don't know if Aaron could hear me. But it felt right. Over the next weeks, I began cleaning. Not just tidying, really cleaning. I folded his clothes and placed them gently in a box. I kept his photo near the bed. I started walking again, just to the shop, around the block. I passed the park. I still saw the bench. But now I could keep walking. Then one afternoon, I passed a small learning center. A sign on the door said, "Beginner Computer Classes, Tuesdays at 2. I paused. I didn't need a reason. I just needed something. So I signed up. The first class was strange. Everyone was younger. Louder. I sat in the back. When the teacher asked why I joined, I said, "I want to start something new." Nothing more. Week after week, I went back. Learned how to type faster. Make simple documents. It wasn't much. But it was something. It was proof I hadn't given up. One day, I walked past a cafe Aaron and I had always said we'd try but never did. I went in. Ordered tea. Sat by the window. Watched people. I stayed for an hour. And I felt okay. Eventually, I began talking again. Not about Aaron. Just simple things. A thank you here. A hello there. I wasn't leading with my grief. I was slowly letting people see me. A few months later, my cousin invited me to her wedding. I almost said no. But I said yes. I wore a soft dress. Took the train. Hugged my cousin and said I was happy to be there. And I meant it. Watching her say her vows made my heart ache. But I stayed. I danced a little. I smiled. That night, I looked in the mirror again. I looked tired. But calm. Like someone who had survived a long, cold winter and was standing in spring. I still missed Aaron. I always would. But I no longer waited for him to walk through the door. He was part of me now, not a shadow beside me, but a thread woven through who I was becoming. And one morning, I caught myself humming a tune. His tune. I didn't cry. I smiled. Because even though I had become a widow at 21, I was still here. Still breathing. Still learning how to live again. Not for anyone else. Not even for a new beginning. Just for me. And maybe, in a quiet way, for him too.